The Minnesota Timberwolves moved up in the lottery for the first time in the history of their franchise. This time, the jump came from number 3 projected spot to the number 1 overall pick. After convincing themselves that they would drop to either number 6 or number 7, Wolves fans were suddenly perplexed as with what to do with the number 1 pick. Who should they target? Should they even trade the pick? What will they trade the pick for? What can they trade the pick for? Those questions have not been answered yet, and there's a solid chance they don't get answered until November 18th, which is the night of the draft. On Wednesday, October 14th, The Ringer's Kevin O'Connor reported that executives around the league believe the Timberwolves would prefer to trade the number 1 pick for a win-now player. This has seemed to be the consensus opinion around #draft Twitter ever since the lottery order was set. Everyone has their opinion on what the Wolves should do with that number 1 overall selection, and everyone has their own reasons. Well, here's my reasoning for why it is essential that the Timberwolves president of basketball operations, Gerson Rosas, finds a deal to move the number 1 pick. Minnesota has a long history of draft mishaps and mistakes. I could go on and on about decisions that have been made in the last handful of seasons, but I digress. I want to focus on what's happening right now. As of last season, the team has a fresh front office full of individuals who are well respected around the association. Gerson Rosas leads a strategic, poised, and capable front office. With 1 draft under his belt where he traded up to select Jarrett Culver, Rosas has seen his share of criticism for the move. But let's stop judging the book after the first page. The jury is still out on Culver, and he showed some great flashes as a rookie. The thing with this draft is not that I don't trust Rosas, it's that I don't trust the prospects at the number 1 pick. I don't trust that they will be contributors at the NBA level next season. The likes of LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards, and James Wiseman find themselves atop many mock drafts simply because they possess the highest potential reward, though that comes with immense risk as well. The Timberwolves cannot afford that risk. Not again. Last time the Wolves held the first pick, 2015. They selected a player that was a sure thing. That player was Karl Anthony Towns. There's no such thing as a sure thing in this year's draft. I feel confident that Rosas knows which players could come to the team this coming season and provide meaningful minutes. I am also confident that Rosas is smart enough to see that those players could be had in the mid to late lottery rather than with the first pick. That player could be someone like a Devin Vassell, Killian Hayes, Denny Avdia, Isaac Okoro, or etc. Regardless, those players could and should be traded back for. Now, I've heard many arguments stating that the Wolves should just take whoever they see as the best pick for the team with number 1, even if they could potentially be had later in the draft. I get the point of that argument, and for some teams, I think this is a fine strategy, but not for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is Minnesota different from other franchises around the league? The answer is their tight financial situation. Minnesota barely crossed the luxury tax threshold this past season, a move that Timberwolves governor Glenn Taylor signed off on. The tax line was set at $132 million for the 2019-2020 NBA season. The Wolves just dipped their toes in the waters by spending $132,512,645 last season. There were likely numerous talks to find a way to dip back below the line before the season ended, but in the end, they stood pat. This creates a much larger problem than just cutting a check for their penalties. Essentially, the NBA penalizes teams for going over the luxury tax by charging them a certain amount for every dollar they go over the cap. This also comes with certain levels depending how deep into the tax a franchise is. Here's a breakdown of those levels. If a team spends less than $5 million, it is $1.50 for every dollar. $5 million to just under $10 million is $1.75 for every dollar. $10 million to $15 million is $2.50 for every dollar. $15 million to $20 million, $3.25 on the dollar, and over $20 million is $3.75 for every dollar. Now, the Wolves fell into the first tier last season, meaning their penalties were less than $1 million total. That may not seem like a big deal, but in reality, it means much more than it looks on the surface. Tax penalties are no big deal if you are a 1 or even 2-time offender over the course of 4 seasons. However, if you pass the tax line in 3 of 4 seasons, you become a quote-unquote repeat offender. This raises the tax penalties considerably. Here's what those penalties look like. Under $5 million, the tax rate is $2.50 for every dollar. $5 million to $10 million is $2.75. $10 million to $15 million is $3.50. 15 million to 20 million is $4.25. And then if you're 20 million over, it's $4.75. So essentially, the penalty rate goes up $1 per tier, and that can get spendy. NBA owners are typically unwilling to become repeat tax offenders unless they are title favorite, which the Timberwolves clearly are not. Whoever the owner is, be it Glenn Taylor or a new buyer, they would be hesitant to pay luxury tax penalties for a likely borderline playoff team at best. I'll just quickly run through some hypotheticals to get a sense of where the Timberwolves are financially. Here's what the cap table looks like. As you can see, we have 2 max contracts with D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns. You have a $16 million player option from James Johnson, and you're likely re-signing Malik Beasley at about $13 million, plus other things. All in total, all of the players plus the exceptions and likely signings, we end up with $142,829,498. Now, this salary table assumes James Johnson accepts his $16 million player option. The Timberwolves re-sign Malik Beasley to a 4-year, $52 million contract, re-sign Juancho Hernangomez to a 4-year, $20 million contract, re-sign Jordan McLaughlin and Keelan Martin for at least 1 season at $1.5 million, and the mid-level exception and biannual exception are used in their entirety. Also, this assumes the number 1 pick and the number 17 pick sign contracts for the maximum allowed 120% of the rookie scale contracts, and pick number 33 ends up signing a 2-way contract, which doesn't affect the cap. The NBA salary cap and luxury tax numbers have not been set for next season. Projected numbers are likely to be lowered. The assumption of many around the league is that the cap stays flat for next season at $109 million with a $132 million luxury tax, just like last season. I'll just use these numbers to play it safe for this exercise. Of course, any jump in salary cap numbers will benefit the Timberwolves and their journey to avoid the luxury tax. So with all the aforementioned contract situations happening, the Wolves would find themselves sitting nearly $11 million over the luxury tax threshold, which would be the 2nd season in a row. This means the Wolves would need to avoid the tax in both of the next 2 seasons, or else major tax ramifications would occur. It would be best to avoid the tax this season and wait for James Johnson's contract to expire, which would allow for more cap flexibility in 2021 free agency. To do this, the Wolves would need to shed some salary from the table above. A combination of events would be needed to accomplish this. First, the Wolves could decide to wait to use their biannual exception until next offseason, eliminating nearly $4 million in salary, but that still leaves around $7 million over the cap. Here comes the importance of trading the number 1 pick. As shown, the salary for the first overall pick would be $10,281,360. If that pick is traded entirely out of this year's draft, then the luxury tax problem is essentially eliminated. However, I find it unlikely that Rosas wants to move out of this draft, even though he still possesses pick number 17 as well. Instead, Rosas should take a look into trade down partners and pick up other assets in the deal. There have been speculated trade partners, New York, Atlanta, and Detroit being mentioned the most frequently. The Hawks, Pistons, and Knicks hold the 6th, 7th, and 8th picks respectively. It has also been rumored that the Knicks want LaMelo Ball, and he wants them. So if Minnesota could create a package and trade back to number 8, they could save themselves some valuable salary and pick up a great asset or 2. 120% of the rookie scale contract for the number 8 overall pick is only $5,123,040. That would save the Timberwolves $5,158,320 on their first round rookie. Here's what my potential deal with New York would look like. The Timberwolves would be receiving Mitchell Robinson, a 2021 round 1 pick, and a 2020 pick from the Knicks, which would be the 8th overall. And the Timberwolves would be sending number 1 overall to the Knicks. With this trade, the Timberwolves would use the 8th overall pick to select a player that fills a need on the roster and will likely contribute to winning more than the number 1 prospect will this season. Also, Minnesota picks up a valuable 2021 first-round pick. A 2021 first-round pick is an essential asset to acquire if Minnesota trades out a number 1. The Wolves traded their 2021 pick, top 3 protected, to Golden State in the D'Angelo Russell-Andrew Wiggins swap. Now, because of the Stepien rule, the Timberwolves cannot trade a first-round pick until 2024. This leaves little bargaining power in potential trade offers for a 3rd star. Many doors will be opened if a 2021 pick is acquired. Mitchell Robinson would also be coming to the Timberwolves in this hypothetical trade, though I, personally, would do this deal even without Robinson in the deal and simply just swap our first this year for New York's next 2 first-round picks. However, if the Knicks want the pick badly enough and are willing to throw Robinson into the mix, his $1.7 million contract would not be too hard to manage. So with this trade in the books, the Timberwolves have come much closer to ducking the tax threshold. With Robinson's contract, Minnesota would sit at $3,517,039 over the tax, and without Robinson, they are only $1,853,178 away from ducking the tax altogether. With either of those figures, the Wolves would be able to sneak under the tax by doing some sort of combination of the following things. Either trading Omari Spellman and or Jacob Evans III for future picks, not using the full mid-level exception, not signing Keelan Martin and or Jordan McLaughlin, not guaranteeing Naz Reid, Jalen Noel, and or Jared Vanderbilt's contract, or not retaining Juancho Hernangomez. With certain combinations of these moves, the Wolves would find themselves under the luxury tax threshold and with a few more assets to work with. In the end, I believe it is absolutely essential that the Timberwolves trade the number 1 overall pick. The biggest factor being the financial ramifications of going over the luxury tax, but the 2 less important factors still provide ample reasons to make the move. Getting assets will help in any future trades, and selecting a safer player would help the team in the short run, keeping Towns happy and in Minnesota. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Those are the reasons why I think the Timberwolves need to trade the number 1 overall pick. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are of this situation. I really think the Wolves need to make this move, but if you have a different opinion or if you agree with me, put it in the comment section below. Also, subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy this video. If you want me to make more videos like this, kind of like an essay format, let me know. This one was a ton of fun to make, and I would consider making more if you guys enjoyed it. So I appreciate you all so much. Drop a like in this video, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.